Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you. I hope that everything is going great for you as you move about your day. As for me, I'm in a good place, a lot going on. Um, Going through a process of growing pains with a couple of the companies that I own and operate. Been here quite a few times, so I know what to expect, and I am excited about it. It's not always easy. It's painful at times, but it's a part of the process. Um, I could be going through shrinking pains, and that will be worse. So I'm excited about that. Well, before I get off into this short video, we're going to talk about the importance of mindfulness and guarding your gates to protect what's coming in that may influence your thinking and your thought processes. I want to remind you that we on Friday launched the uh, pre-order promo for my next book release, which will be April 12th, Friday, April 12th. The name of the book is I Am. I Am speaks to the power to declare uh, verbally and set the course of your life. Now, that works both ways. A lot of people are making negative declarations with what follows I Am, but you have the power to make positive declarations. We talk about how that works. We talk about how it enforces or reinforces certain biases and limiting beliefs if we don't be careful, if we're not careful, and how we can literally establish a consistent practice that will literally train the subconscious mind to produce ideas, thoughts, and even speech that is conducive to the things we desire. It is the follow-up book to Critical Mass, The Phenomenon of Next Level Living. It is the second book in a 6-book series. And so I'm excited about that. This is going to be book number 21. I remember when I was told that book number 1 would never get published. And so it's always exciting to me every time that I'm able to put my thoughts on paper in a way that people can take them and extract from them powerful messages, principles, and laws that will help them govern their lives. I'm just ecstatic about it. So you can literally pre-order your book now. When you pre-order your book, you get it at a discounted rate in comparison to the regular price. And you also get a free 30-minute breakthrough session with yours truly. That alone is of an immense value. We will identify at least one area in which if you just make some changes, you will see a difference in your life. And this can be done in 30 minutes. I do it consistently, but it's up to you. You've got to make the first step. So that's that. Let's briefly talk about the importance of guarding your gate. This is Mindfulness Tuesday. We were talking about the importance of mindset. You've heard it before, whether you are a Christian believer, whether you are a mentalist, whether you are a Buddhist, whether you are Hinduist, whether you practice Islam, Judaism, whatever. One thing that is consistent throughout all of these beliefs and another 4,200 religious practices is that the mind sets the course of life. You've been told that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. When the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, the word that is used as heart is cardia. It's a Greek word, Kardia, and it is representative of not the physiological heart, but the heart or the seat of the soul. And so you'll hear all the time in the Bible, guard your hearts and minds. Now, some people think that's the emotional center and the mental center, but actually it's talking about two different conscious states, the mind and the heart. The mind is the conscious state. It is where things are seen, perceived, and prioritized and given weight. It is the nous in Greek, N-O-U-S. And so when you start talking about the hearts and minds, you're talking about the conscious and the subconscious. In cardia, you're talking about the depth or the seat or the center of the soul. So you're talking about the subconscious. We now know from a scientific perspective that the subconscious governs about 96% of our behavior each and every day. So what we're getting out of life is not what we're thinking or saying or doing consciously, but what we are thinking, doing, and saying subconsciously. We're on autopilot 96% of the time, being governed by the ideas, the beliefs, and the principles that have been prioritized, categorized, and set up in our subconscious. And so what we are responsible for is literally governing what comes in our gates, because what comes in our gates, no matter what we think or say about it consciously, if we're allowing something to pervasively encroach upon our subconscious and enter into the gates of our thinking and our thought processes, it's ultimately going to have an influence on how we think, what we believe, and how we behave. So that's why it's so important to guard your gates. You guys have followed me, you know, one of my favorite scriptures of all times comes in the book of Corinthians, 10th chapter, starting at verse 3. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds, bringing every thought into, for the bringing down, tearing down of strongholds, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity, into the obedience of Christ. And what we're talking about here is arresting thoughts, casting down arguments. In other words, when something comes at you that is not in alignment with what you agree with, you have a responsibility to cast it away, to push it away, to break it down, to push it away. You have the responsibility, not simply to look at it and say, I don't agree with it, but to literally take action and speak against it. Speak against it and cast it down. I don't accept it. I refuse to accept it. One of the common religious sayings is, I rebuke it. But what you're saying is, I refuse to accept that. Don't speak that in my life. Don't send that information my way. I cast it down. Then after you cast down arguments, you have to you have to arrest thoughts. It says bringing every thought into captivity. You arrest any thought that comes at you. Now see, when you sit up in your arresting thoughts, you said, okay, why am I thinking this? I don't want to think this. So you arrest it. You cast it down. You immediately replace the poor thinking with a new idea. Every time you do that, you create a neural pathway that houses this new idea. Now it's up to you to service it, nurture it, support it, grow it, expand it, and allow it to grow deeper roots so that it becomes a prevalent and prominent idea, thought, and influencer of your beliefs. And at the same time, because you cannot have two existing diametric ideas or beliefs, the one you entertain and support the most will automatically work to atrophy and reduce the prevalence and the power and the influence of the older belief. So when you create a new belief, if you serve that belief, if you nurture that belief, if you visit and engage that belief, if you give that belief the attention that it requires, it will grow, it will become stronger, it will have an emphatic influence on your subconscious mechanisms and makeups and influence your behavior, your habitual behavior. And at the same time, it will offset the old idea, the limiting belief, the negative belief, and it will eventually atrophy away, and those neural connections will disappear. There's a common saying that neurons that fire together wire together. So the more you sit up and think about it, the more you talk about it, the more you engage it, the more you fantasize or dream about whatever, the more it fires. And as it fires, it begins to connect and intertwine with other neural pathways that are categorized in the same area. So if you're talking about marriage and you have this new idea you created about it, that your spouse is this, and you're committed to this, and your marriage is going to produce this. To replace that old thing is, my marriage sucks and it's going down fast. You replace it with this. It doesn't just sit up on its own. It begins to connect with all your other ideas and beliefs about your marriage. And so anytime your marriage comes up, now it's an influencing factor, and it's being hardwired in with all the other beliefs. So now this is your subconscious moving in behavior. So now when you behave in the space of dealing with your marriage, you're dealing with it now with new ideas, new beliefs that will govern your behavior. So now your spouse sees something different because your behavior has changed. This works in finance, it works in parenting, it works in business. You've got to guard your gates. You've got to be aware of thinking that is not conducive to what it is you're trying to accomplish. This isn't magic. It's simple neurology. It's simple quantum physics. It's the ability of you to understand and take action in a way that causes the universe to respond to the demands that you're placing on it. You have to become that thing that you desire. You cannot wish it. You cannot talk it in. You have to become. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. You get what you become. If you're not yet getting something you want, it's because you haven't become the person capable of producing it. And the beautiful thing about it is there's always an opportunity to grow, to develop, to evolve, to become. So anything you desire to become, you can become if you set your mind to it, you guard your gates, you get rid of all of the negative noise. We have so much noise bombarding us about who we are, where we are, what we do, what we can do, what we can't do, what the limitations in life are, what are possibilities, what are impossibilities. And we are taking it all in, and it's creating these barriers that won't allow us to function in the full capacity of our design. You're responsible for sitting up and guarding your gates and saying that thought, that idea, that message does not align with what I want for my life, what I believe I am built to do. I refuse to allow that to enter into my psyche without arresting it, without tagging it as BS and pushing it away. I am going to, in my mindset, establish the possibilities that are given to me by my design. I am going to live life at the level of my design. I am no longer going to be defined by the random opinions of other people. I'm not going to sit in the box. And this is going to be real hard, because who doesn't? If you had a good childhood, you love your parents. Your parents did an awesome job based on what they were given. Here's the thing. Most of us were given limited ideas of what's possible based on the experiences of our parents. And so what we have to do is be able to escape the limiting ideas and see that there's something bigger. Why? Number one is I have a responsibility to outperform my parent or my predecessor. And I have a responsibility to give a more expanded vision of what's possible to my progeny. I've got to pass on something to my kids that is more than I ever received as a child, to give them a head start in what's possible in life. There are no impossibilities. There are only beliefs that limit you and shut down what you believe is possible. If we were living based off of what the world thought was possible, we wouldn't have airplanes. If we believed what the world thought was possible, we wouldn't have people running the mile in under 4 minutes. If we believed what we thought was possible, we wouldn't be exploring some of the unbelievable things like wireless communication, the internet. Things we take for granted now was once believed impossible. Somebody in their mind said, I don't think it's impossible. I'm going to find a way to make it happen. And that's where you have something in you, at least one thing in you, that the world believes is impossible, but God sent you to make them understand that it's not. You have something in your design that is meant for you to achieve the exceptional, the extraordinary, the phenomenal in life. But you've been convinced that all you have to do is this: just stay safe, don't take any risks, do what everybody else does, wake up when everybody else wakes up, go to work like everybody else goes to work, get through life. You're going to pay your bills. You're not going to have any really bad things happen because you're playing it safe. And then you're going to leave here and you will live safe. Safe is not where it's at. There is a need to take a risk. If you're not willing to take a risk, you may get through life and everything will look like it was cool. You got through it. You did some things. It was good. But the one thing I can tell you, having worked with the elderly a lot in multiple capacities, I can tell you the worst thing I've ever seen in the eyes of someone elderly isn't the fear of death. It is regret. It is looking at life and saying, I wish I would have did more at a time when there's no time left. That's not a feeling I ever want to do. I don't fear death, but I will never have to deal with regret, because if it's there, I'm going after it. I have no fear of failure. I have no fear of losing because I don't quit. I will experience setbacks. I will experience hardships. I will experience some difficulty and some delay. But what I will not do is accept loss, defeat, or failure. I will have it, but I won't accept it. I'll get back up. I'll dust myself off. I'll refocus and I'll keep going. While you're trying to define what happened to me a year ago, I'm already somewhere else because I didn't accept it. Stop identifying with what went on yesterday. Stop identifying with the struggles you're having today. Understand who you are. Stop identifying with conditions, situations, and circumstances. Start identifying with your design. How are you made up? What are you gifted at? What are you great at? Everybody has something. I've worked with people with autism, mild mental retardation, and so many other things that people look at and they say they're disabled in some way. And I found genius in every person I've ever encountered. The problem is the world isn't looking for your genius. The world is looking for a way to make you conform to what they want you to be so that they can benefit from you. And it's robbing you of the unbelievable, precious, gifted capacity that God granted you. And that's something you got to learn how to do. I don't look outside of myself to be defined. I'm not defined by the random opinions of others. I am not moved by minimum-minded examinations of my expectations or my capacity. I know who I am, and I know at a level that nobody can take that away from me. I'm looking to excel based off of how I see myself in my own personal examination of who I am, not on what other people think. It's not that that it doesn't matter to me, how people feel. It doesn't matter to me what you think of me because I know who I am. It doesn't mean I do everything right. It doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. But what it does mean is that I am not going to sit up and just be locked in to this mediocre existence because that's where people feel I should be. That's something that we've got to do a better job of. We've got to do a better job. Hey, Regina, what's going on, cuz? Look, we've got to do a better job of living up to the standard of our design. Living at the level of our design is a responsibility we hold individually. We have a responsibility to say, man, this is who I am, and I'm going to live every ounce of it. I'm going to actualize every ounce of potential that's on the inside, and I'm going to live life to the fullest. I'm going to be an impact. I'm going to be a force. I am going to leave a legacy that speaks of me long after I'm gone. With that being said, look, I could talk about this all day, but with that being said, this is what you've got to do. You've got to start knowing what it is you want and becoming it. You've got to set a course and become committed to it. You've got to sit up and say, you know what, no matter what, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to grow into the greatness that I was designed to experience. And you do it every day. You wake up and you give this life that you have everything you have. Step outside of the shadows of mediocrity because there's greatness waiting to overtake you when you just start living in the fullness of your design. Yeah, change is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, but hey, the rewards, oh my God, start living at the level of your design. With that being said, I'm gonna get out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day. I'm gonna try to check back in with you later on, but have an unbelievable day. But make a point to live life at its fullest and make a point today to do something exceptional. Just one thing, something above and beyond what you would normally do. One thing, stop by and talk to a homeless person. Bless them in whatever way you're capable of blessing them. Call somebody up you haven't talked to in a long time and tell them how much you love them and lift them. And sit up and map out a business plan for something you've always wanted to do, but you were afraid to take the risk. Do something extraordinary today and start something exceptional. That's my challenge to you. You've heard me say this so many times. I'm going to say it again. I am going to live my life on full. And at the end of this life, I will die on E. I will die not having left anything on the table, anything on the field. I'm going to go all out each and every day. And I'm going to be happy with where the chips fall because I'm giving it my all. And I'm challenging you to do the same thing. With that being said, I'm out of here. You guys have a lovely day.